In just the past few months, over 100 dairy farms here in the Central Valley have been hit hard by this year's strain of avian flu, with some dairy farms seeing as much as a third of their herd being infected. On this Wired Wednesday, GV Wire reporter Edward Smith joins us to explain just how widespread this disease is in California and what farmers are doing to try to contain it. Good morning, Edward. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Morning, Jim.
So how widespread is this disease here in the Central Valley?
So, like, as you mentioned, more than 100 herds here, and especially the central San Joaquin, have reported cases of avian flu, which means they're under quarantine, which means they're being observed, and it looks like it's spreading north, and that's what reports are. So it's still going. California is one of the hardest hit states in the union.
What can you tell us, like how many cows would this affect roughly?
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing is it's got a ramp up day. You'll see it in a couple cows, and then you'll see it in a few dozen, and then all of a sudden it's in hundreds of cows. Because we're talking about dairies with thousands of cows, right. And up to a third could be getting it. And these are hundreds of cows that you have to take off the line, and they have to be specially treated, to keep them healthy. And
what does that include? Is that medicine shots? What do you do to treat a cow like that?
So it's very similar to the human flu. Very fever. They don't eat. They're not drinking. So for lighter cases, aspirin and some electrolytes can get them healthy. But for more severe cases, you actually have to force water into them to keep them hydrated and keep them fed. And they have to be. The fever has to be treated. It's a serious thing.
And that's a lot when you're talking about a cow. A cow's a big animal, but you're talking about multiple cows. That's a whole nother level of complication.
Absolutely, yeah. I talked to one dairy farmer, and he's got multiple sites. He said he was lucky that they didn't get all hit at once. They got in phases, because otherwise he would have been way too widespread to be able to treat it all.
So is there any long-term effect from this?
It's very early to see, but there are some fears that some cows are getting permanent milk production losses. Oh. So yeah, they're just not coming back. Now, they haven't seen that too much, but there are some reports, which means that, for dairy farmers who are operating at thin margins, they do need to cull those cows. And that's difficult, because then getting replacement cows is hard, because there are all sorts of sick cows, and with beef and milk prices the way they are, it's been hard to find them.
And how do you do it when you do have the sick cows? Do you have to confine them in a certain area?
They do need to be isolated, because the one other way that it spreads is nose-to-nose contact. So they cannot be near other healthy cows. So yeah, they do need to be taken aside to a shelter. And thankfully it's not as hot as it was last week.
Right.
But so they do need to be kept cool as well.
Overall picture, how's it affecting the dairy industry?
So we're gonna dairy farmers in the next 2 weeks are gonna start getting their checks for September milk for the milk production, and they're in for they're not expecting very big checks, maybe half of what it was. Not to mention the cost of what it takes to implement all these preventive measures. Because we're talking about all trucks have to come down a mile away. They're having to do all this PPE. It's not good. Person said, one Western United Dairies told me that if a dairy was already in trouble, they're in for a lot more trouble.
Oh my goodness! And it's not like you could plan for this. You could budget for this. This is all extra expense just being dumped on them.
It is. There are some government programs that are helping to pay for preventative measures, but many California dairies are too big to qualify for those.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Edward Smith with GVWire.com. We appreciate you coming in and sharing your expertise with us. We'll be right back.